Hello, everyone. This is David the Sun Devil. Um, I'm also going to throw this on Creatacast podcast, and today we're going to talk about my favorite upcoming time of the year, autumn or fall. The reason this is my favorite time of the year is it's a transition point. Usually, I get sick at transition points. It's real crazy. Every fall or spring, I get sick. It's like only one time a year though. It's either the spring or the fall. And I usually get sick for about a week because it's like the sniffles and shit. Anyways, outside of that, October and November are like my favorite times of the year. Here's why. It's getting cooler, especially in Arizona. It's a bliss when it's like 20 degrees cooler. It's like perfect weather. Um, but I also have family up north in Utah and Idaho, and it's great because I like the transition of the trees. I like seeing um, yellow and orange leaves. Don't like picking them up, but I like seeing them. Um, but I also like corn mazes, hot chocolate. You know, it's to the tail end of camping season, so you got s'mores and things. So I mean, you got a lot that goes on in the October time frame. That's great. First of October, I'm gonna watch Hocus Pocus. I do it every year. Me and the kids, we sit around, we watch Hocus Pocus, and my kids don't love it yet like I do. It's like my one of my favorite movies of all time for this particular season. And I always tend to watch The Nightmare Before Christmas in October and again in December because I believe it can fall into both categories as a Halloween and a Christmas film. I also watch a lot of um, Danny Elfman slash Tim Burton films. Like I'm probably gonna watch Caroline, even though that's like the scarier of the cartoons that I watch during the Halloween time frame. I really don't get into the Jasons and the Freddy Kruegers around this time of the year. I like watching like Ernest Halloween. That's always a good family picture about Halloween. I watch the classics like Sleepy Hollow, like the Ichabod Crane cartoon version of that. I like the different, more family oriented Halloween themed time for, like videos and books. I'm not the biggest horror fiction reader, but if I do read horror, if I do get it in me to write flash fiction or short stories that pertain to Halloween, or pertain to horror, it is during the months of October and November coming up. I write a lot of short stories. I do. It's like something that allows me to escape. I can easily punch down 500 to 1,500 words for flash fiction. My longer fiction, 5,000 to 10,000 words, and it is during this period of time that I also probably do the most amount of writing. Just got back from Mexico City, and I've been busy. I did not write as much as I thought I was going to write there. Just the schedule didn't really allow for it, and then the internet connection sucked. That's really not an excuse, especially if you're a writer by habit. And simply, I just created different habits. My habits that I created when I was there is focusing on eating healthier, exercising more, and being outward focused. And that's something that I do preach a lot, and preaching, I don't know if it's the right word, I do advocate for, is being outward focused for a period of time so it allows you great opportunities to have the human interaction that you can add to your stories later. There's something to be said about the camaraderie of fighters, or the camaraderie of people who are getting ready to go to war in some fashion or manner. And you really don't get a sense of how that is, or can write for it or speak for it, if you don't have that experience. Now, you have that experience that you can recall vaguely from high school sports or even college sports, and you have a sense of camaraderie there. But when you're getting ready to help someone prepare for time in the arena, it's a different mentality. You literally feel like you're in a gladiator school helping gladiators prepare for maybe their final time in the arena. And there is a sense of there's a bond that you forge not just with your fellow fighters and trainers, but is the bond you forge with the community in which you train in. And that's exactly what happened. There's bonds that I forged over the last month and a half, and being outward focused, that helped bring forth a new level of understanding and relationship that I can bring to my storytelling. And I've spent a long time taking notes, and I use Samsung Notes. Like any note taking, anything that you have in your phone to take notes, do it, because I was able to take a lot of notes. I was able to um, do a little bit of research and lore, and it was a very historical month for Mexico in general. So I was able to really understand and really go after, um, like border tales. I learned about Pancho Villa. I went to La Bufa and saw the statues and rode the Teleferico. Um, you know, got to go in a mine. I mean, there's so much that you don't see. There's so much history there that you don't know until you know, and until you research it and you dig and you read, and it's beautiful history, and the people are beautiful there. So you really get an understanding for the community you live in when you are there as a guest, and you're learning and you're appreciating their culture, you're sharing your culture and nuances and understandings, but you're mostly observing and taking in. And that's what we do as writers. We do that as creatives. We are the great observers. We watch people. We watch how they interact. We watch, their jokes. We watch what they find funny. We watch their eating habits, their drinking habits. We watch their drug habits if they have one. We see that. If people have a high tolerance for something, and you're like, wow, man, you can really put down a drink, or you can really, do something in excess, and you're just like, how? And it makes you wonder how they got that way. And especially if they're very jovial while doing it, and you're like, man, like, are you a great soul that has an affliction, and there may be a darker side you don't know, and that allows your creative brain to be like, wow, you dig into it. Especially if you experience the day ins and day outs of a fighter, you get to see the emotional roller coaster, because when you get in the arena, you see them cool, calm, collected, built for battle, and you're like, that's amazing. That is an amazing individual. They suffer to get in nasty shape to fight for money, and it's being part of that journey. The underlying currents of what took place. That's why you see in the film Warrior, you see the emotional turmoil of the fighters. You see some of the background, and I can say from personal experience, yeah, there is an emotional roller coaster that happens when you're a prize fighter preparing for a fight. And it was great. It was great to bear witness to that. It's great to be a part of that. It's great to document as much as I documented of it. So, like I said before, like when it comes to having been part of that, the tempo and then the internet connection and limited access to a computer really didn't allow for a lot of creative writing, but it did allow for a lot of observation, a lot of pictures and video that I can go back to really dissect and consume as a creative mind, to say, you know what, how can I write this into a story? And then there's like little stories and little things that, you find intriguing about a person the more you're around them, and the more you engage with them and doing life stuff. Like, it's something as simple as getting a haircut. You understand what they like and what they look for in their own hygiene and the way they want themselves to appear. And you understand the fastidiousness of someone's ritual of how they put on their appearance when before they leave the door. So all of that you observe in real time and you park it in your brain for later use. And it's the smaller details, and it's something that I wasn't really too keen on as a younger writer, as a younger man. Yeah, I saw the details, but I didn't think of them in such a way that I would impose them or implement them in my writing. And it's one of those things where you concentrate on, you focus on when that information is good to use. But as an older writer, as a more experienced writer, those details become more prevalent and more in line with the way you eventually become as a storyteller. Um, as a storyteller, I like details, especially if you're writing mystery. The more details, sometimes, the better. Sometimes you try and trick your reader and give them a barrage of details that later on don't come to mean anything because there was one kernel in those group of details that allowed them to have that aha moment or have that surprise when they read what you're actually getting to or what the actual mystery was. So it's tricks of the trade, so to speak, when it comes to being more of an experienced writer and sitting back and allowing yourself to observe people. The great thing about being in Mexico too was the architecture is different. So you had to learn. I had to learn how to articulate a way to describe their architecture as opposed to, back here in the States or, being somewhere different, like back east. It's just a different architecture, it's a different mentality. And I'm a country person too. We went out to the country, went to a place called El Chique. Loved it, loved the people there. Small town. Got to go swim in a lake and learn a little bit of the history. We had a wonderful guide. We had a wonderful experience there because the family that took us in for the visit was very much open and caring and thoughtful to our needs and really took care of us. And those are those human interactions that one, I'll remember for the rest of my life and I'll enjoy those experiences. But you can also provide a format in writing to people who've never had that kind of experience to say, hey, maybe there's a different way to live. Maybe there's a different way of being that I'm not tapping into. And if you can do that, even from a fiction standpoint, you're teaching somebody something. You're informing their emotional intelligence that the reactions they have in their day-to-day life may not be how it is everywhere. And it's often not. As a young man, a lot of my day-to-day life was not so much turmoil, but there was a lot of conflict and a lot of very visceral and very human interactions. But when it comes to uh, life somewhere else, and as an older person, life is wholly different. And the beautiful thing about being an adult is you do have the right to say fuck off and fuck you. And not to say that you lead with that, not to say that um, that isn't a way of being you want all the time. But the great thing about being an adult too is you have the right to say, you know what, I don't agree with you, and I'm getting the fuck out of here. And that's powerful. That's powerful for people who feel trapped. That's powerful for people who feel like somehow they cannot escape their world. There's plenty of adults out there who believe that they are caught in a rat race, that believe that they will live and interact within a certain box or confine that they are unable to get out of mentally. And you see this with people who have been abused. You see this with people who are being mentally strangled by other people. And for you to read of someone who has the power to say, you know what, you've tried to orchestrate how, I'm going to be in the next 72 hours. And I say, fuck that, I'm going to go do my own thing. And it's very powerful for someone to say, you know what? Your actions, your wants and desires don't control my wants, actions, and desires. So I'm going to go do my own thing. And it's okay. People don't understand anymore, especially if they're used to being around human beings, that it's okay to be alone. It's okay to find time to do your own thing and be your own person. Even if it's just in the shower for the most part. If you're in the shower and you're alone and you're happy by yourself and it's the one time of the day in your given situation that allows you to be you, then be you in the shower. But then when you leave and you have to put on the face or you have to do everything else you have to do to interact with people, you can also remember to choose to be you. You need to take a stand for yourself, and you can have characters that do that. That's why we like anti-heroes, because anti-heroes give us permission to say, you know what? Fuck your logic. I'm going to go do whatever the fuck I want to do. It may not be logical. It may not make sense to you, but I'm going to fucking do it anyway. And that's what we love about anti-heroes. We like that they're countercultural. We like that they go against the conventions of law and things like that. And we like characters that are really their own person. Point in case, we love Riddick. Riddick is a badass. We love the character. Vin Diesel does a great job with that character. I for the life of me could not imagine anyone else playing that character. But we also have people like that can play different variations or different iterations of the Punisher, from Dolph Lundgren to Thomas Jane, and we like the different iterations for different reasons, because the character himself is fuck you. Like I love the Netflix series of Punisher. It is awesome. It's amazing. The storytelling is great. The acting is superb. It's gritty. It's raw, and the storytelling is awesome. And it mingles with some of the other Netflix Marvel shows, and it's awesome to see. So we fall into that, and then we have the DC side of the house that does the same thing, where we have more serious writing when it comes to that. We have a very, very flawed Green Arrow. We have a very, very flawed Barry Allen, and we see these characters that have real flaws, that have moments of fuck you, and it's awesome to have. We have characters that are like, you know what? You just said a whole bunch of shit that you want me to do, but I'm not going to go do that, because you know what? I'm my own person. And we value characters like that. Often, like on the inside, we're also screaming like, no, don't do that. We know what happens to you. But sometimes that's also how people learn. And if we can introduce ideas like that in literature, and we can write like that, and we often misplace how poetry can do that too. Poetry can be very fuck you. Poetry can be very in your face, and it can be very abrasive, and we need that. We have poetry that's so soft and romantic and sweet and metaphysical and all these other things, but we also really appreciate carnality, and we also appreciate very provocative, not so much erotic, but so much provocative writing. There's a place for it, and there's a place where somebody needs that. Somebody sitting somewhere is going to pick up your work one day, and they're going to be like, wow, where the fuck was I the rest of my whole life? Like, I lived to be, in my 20s or in my 30s. And people usually have the revelation, like their own person revelation, their early to mid 20s. And because a lot of the times, and I don't say this is for everybody, but a lot of the times we go through the motions of high school, and even right after high school, we're like in college, or we're in the service, or whatever it is we're doing. We're kind of in a mode where we're still operating on somebody else's drum, and we're still not beating to our own drum yet. Now, this isn't for everybody. There are some people who are much younger, and they go to the beat to their own drum, and they're achieving great things. They're doing shit that, hey, I wish I would have thought about doing when I was a kid, but they're doing it. And you're like, damn, I wish I was able to do that. Or damn, you have a lot of cool shit that you do. Or damn, like, you have all this time to focus on that. I wish I would have done that. Or I wish I had that type of focus. So some people are a little bit ahead of the game in that, and we can write characters and stories to that effect, but we also have to understand that, and that's not most people. Most people, like I said, they don't have a strong sense of self and independence until a great fall happens. It happened to me. There was a period of time where, and I was always kind of independent, but there was a time in my life, I would say the last five 5 years, 3 to 5 years, that a lot of people that were keystones, I thought, in my life fell off or disappeared or died or whatever happened, and it's like, damn, I really know who my brothers and sisters are, who really has had my back this entire time. Now, my twin brother, my little brother Andrew, always been solid, but my mom wavered. My mom begged me to go back in the Navy. My mom begged me to not go to grad school. My mom begged me, like, it's like these things, because she didn't have faith in my character, didn't have faith in my ability to accomplish things. She still doesn't, matter of fact. She's not the best grandma. I've got 2 kids now, and it's one of these things where, like, you have these characters that are supposed to be formidable for you. And I'm not saying that she hasn't always been, or, has always been this way, because for a long time, all the way through high school, she was solid. She was a rock. She was easy to talk to, and, very much on friendly terms. And, I valued my mom. It wasn't until, I'd say, the last 5 years that she really started fucking up. And you you can't you can't expect to write something like that unless you've experienced it. But now I've experienced it, and I can add that to my poetry. I can add that to my creative writing. So, like I said, it took a very big fall from grace, a very big fall financially, relationships wise. It was a very sobering moment for me that allowed me to understand who really has your back in a pinch. Because I always thought, like, man, this person has my back. This person has my back. I can, ask them for anything and they're going to provide it. And then you get into a situation where they don't, and you're like, whoa. And you remember thinking, like, damn, like, I'm loyal to you to a fault for no fucking reason. And that's why betrayals in books and literature and film are so visceral, and you feel them because you've had that, you've experienced that. And somebody who not necessarily has experienced it on the level your characters do, or your writing in progress, or your main character, but they've felt it on some sort of level that they connect with that storyline, that they connect with that. And it's funny because I've always liked The Count of Monte Cristo. I've always liked the story, but it didn't really feel genuine or solid for me to understand Edmond Dantes until I was an adult, until I was betrayed, until, like, my best friend had screwed me over, and kind of left me out in the dark. And it wasn't until that moment that I was like, I get that motherfucker now. I totally get him. And you find yourself thinking on that level, like, I'm gonna get these motherfuckers back with class. And that's something that, I guess, vengeance and, biding your time and becoming a better iteration or version of yourself and everything like that, or even seeking out opportunity when it presents itself, has allowed me to grow as a person, even though it started in a fictional world, in a fictional realm. It started in fiction and is applied to real life. And it's something, like I said, as an adult, especially as an older adult in my 30s now, you don't catch on to these nuances, and you don't understand these feelings as deeply when you're younger. And if you do, it's because you've had that sense of betrayal. You've had that sense of loss and defeat. So that's why we live in such a beautiful time. And I'll say this, and I'll say this. We live in such a beautiful time for writers because so much more content is needed. We have platforms everywhere. Hulu, Crackle, Netflix, HBO. Being a writer is beautiful now, especially if you get on a writing team for a series, or, whatever have you. Even you're applying your creative genius. Or if you're the novelist, that somebody takes your book and adopts it to a series, or they adopt it to a film or a feature film, and or they perform one of your plays, or one of your plays goes on to be big. Keep writing, keep producing, because you never know. Writing right now is such a beautiful thing. Literacy is so beautiful that it can be applied to so many different genres, So many different, and you know what's being lost right now is technical writing. We have people who've grown up in the age of text where they can't really articulate themselves well. We have older adults who've been in one industry for 20 plus years. They've written okay. They've had to do minimal amount of technical writing because maybe they were in a grunt role for a long time. Then they got into more of an administrative role for the first time in 10 to 15 years. So, you know, when it comes to technical writing, there is also a need for writers. There's a need for English lit majors, and I've had interactions with English lit majors that have gone to law school, that have gone into the entertainment industry, that have their own podcast shows, that have their own popular YouTube channels, that run photography and videography websites, and do their own shit for multiple magazines and stuff like that. So it's really incumbent upon you to utilize your degree to the best of your ability. And I will always fall back on my writing because Arizona State taught me good technical writing, and they also taught me very, very good critical thinking. And I'll even throw South Mountain Community College on there because it was really there that I learned about critical thinking, Joseph Campbell mythology, and really dug my heels in as a scholar and said, you know what, I can make a go of this. I can make a good leap into my career. And my career's gone in so many different tangents. I've taught English at university. I've become a photojournalist, videographer. I've written articles as a stringer for different agencies. So, I mean, journalism's incorporated. I send professional emails. I write grants. I mean, there's so many different ways to apply your degree. You just really have to get into the nitty gritty of what's out there for you. I've published 3 books, and of the books that I've published, one's short fiction, I have a poetry book, and I've written a play. Now, one thing I will speak on that I really need to remind my writing community out there is it is okay, and I'm going to say this with all seriousness because I cried when it happened. It is okay to lose your shit, lose your material. I lost complete manuscripts. I've lost completed plays, feature-length plays, full 5-act plays, complete, done, timed, everything, because a computer shit the bed, my flash drive shit the bed, my external hard drive shit the bed somehow, or it was lost or damaged or it fell in the river. That was an interesting story. Now, you know, and you think you literally have fallen off of a mountain, and you have, so to speak. That's why I encourage people to have multiple avenues of saving your shit. Don't rely on just your computer. Have external hard drives, have cloud service, and you need to save constantly. And even if it's email templates, if you're a professional person and you lose your email templates and you're used to sending a template with everything, and all you got to do is insert a couple things, or you know, maybe your resume or your other things are templates to you, and you have them in such a way that it's been very successful and profitable for you, then it's a bitch when you lose them. Like a company that I worked for did a whole reboot of their system. I lost 20 short stories. I lost all my email templates because they weren't backed up anywhere. I didn't bother to save them because they figured they were always going to be there. So it happens, but best thing you can do is climb the mountain again. It's okay to start over. You can cry first, but it's okay to start over. It's okay to get back on the horse and write again, because now you have the experience of crunching those keys, and then moving forward, you know how to save, you know how to be better. Thank you for tuning in to David the Sun Devil. Also, like I said, this is going to be on Creatacast. Please like, share, subscribe to this video, and I love you.